Hi guys, I'm Sharonda Isadora and welcome to Brazen Babe Reviews. And tonight, or whatever, I will be doing a book recap, and that book recap will be on Half Reservation Blues by Daniel Jose Older. And this is the first book in his Bone Street Rumba novel. And here's your cover. And as always, I should add it somewhat in here so that the cover will show throughout this recap. So let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so forgive me if I'm not my lively self as I do this recap. I just got in, so I'm a little bit pooped. But I have to get this, I feel like I have to get this done. Why? I don't know. Anyway, so as I said, this is the first book in Mr. Holder's Bone Street Rumba novel. And the book revolves around the main protagonist of the story, who is Carlos de la Cruz. He's an agent for the New York Council of the Dead. Carlos is, what he does for this council is he kind of like takes care of rogue ghosts for the council. It could be rogue ghosts, it could be ghosts that are kind of like out of control, you know, need a little, handling or whatever. He also kills ghosts. It's something that he does. It's called like a dead dead in the book, whereas the ghost is pretty much once, I guess the sword that he, as you can see from the cover, the sword that he carries is kind of like, I believe in the book it says it was like blessed or something like that. So it's blessed in a way where if they, ram their swords through these ghosts are no more. So anyway, the thing with Carlos is, he's called the in-betweener. He's half dead, half alive. So he's kind of like unusual. Whereas with this council, you have like ghost period. Carlos is the only one of his kind that works for this agency. I don't know how I feel about the story. It got better towards the end. This book has 55 freaking chapters. 55 chapters, and it took us a while to get to really the meat and bones of the story. I kind of felt like the plot wasn't solid. It was kind of like a little bit all over the place. The thing with Carlos' character is he doesn't remember anything of his past life. He's brought back to life, which I assume in the beginning of the book, by one of his co-workers. He works with these ghost detectives. One was called Dro, and the other one was called Riley. I assume, like, while I was reading in the beginning of the book, he was brought back by Riley, because it kind of like, in my opinion, it was kind of like worded like that. So, that's what I thought. But that comes not to be true as we get to the meat and bones of the story. Carlos is actually brought back to life along with some other in-betweeners, by this kind of like wizard, sorcerer. His name is Sarko in the book, but it's never given to you in the book why Sarko really brought Carlos and these other in-betweeners back. Pretty much the main plot of the story is that Carlo has to battle Sarko, because Sarko has this, he has this idea of bringing the living and the dead together. Instead of the living and the dead living like separately, he wants to bring it all together in one world. And of course, you know, there has to be some type of balance, and this is what Carlos and the council is trying to stop Sarko from doing. So that's generally the plot of your story, and you also have another character in here who Carlos meets and kind of like falls in love with, and I do believe she's going to have her own book. I think the third book in the series is hers. Either way, her name is Sasha, and she is kind of like Carlos' love interest inside of this book. I didn't feel like a connection between Carlos and Sasha. It was kind of like, I want to say there was kind of like no warmth between them, but it kind of sounds like kind of like sarcastic because they're like half dead, so how would there be any warmth, you know? Me. But you know, I just didn't feel a connection between Carlos and Sasha's character. I just felt like, you know, it wasn't just there. But you come to find out in the story that Sasha was also one of the people that died with Carlos, you know, and came back, one of the people that Sarko brought back to life with Carlos. So I think kind of like in their past lives, Sasha and Carlos knew one another, but that was kind of like never addressed in the book. And I don't know if that was done on purpose by Mr. Holder. Maybe we'll get it later on in the series. But I mean, for this book to be 55 chapters long, I just feel like we should have gotten more about Carlos and his background, and you know, how he came to be. Like, we got like different stories. We thought he was one thing, kind of find out that might not have been true, and Sarko didn't tell Carlos anything. He kind of like strung Carlos along. He kind of like strung Carlos along to get what he needed from Carlos. So the plot to me was kind of like all over the place. I mean, like 55 chapters, and we really didn't get to the meat and the bones of the story until maybe like, I don't know, chapter 30, like between maybe 25 and 30 is where we start getting a little bit more, you know, meat and bones of the story, where the story started picking up. I mean, the first half of the book, we're kind of like, you know, going back and forth. You know, we're getting a story about, you know, the ghost world, and it's set in Brooklyn, New York, which I thought was kind of like cool. And you know, we're getting to know Carlos and the people, the characters around him, such as Riley and the other people that he worked with, which was Baba Eddie, who was kind of like the spiritualist, you know, that did things, you know, when people come in, they want to talk to, you know, tell your future with like bones and all that kind of stuff. Another character we got to know was, what was her name? I think she's going to be the Kia. We got to know a little bit about her. And, you know, we like in the beginning of the book, we pretty much got to know the people around Carlos. And we got to know Carlos a little bit. But as I said, since it was never given in the story, even at the end of the story, like, you know, why did Sarko kill Carlos and why did he bring Carlos back? Like, we really didn't get like a full story. And Carlos, like I said, when he was brought back, he lost his memory, so he doesn't remember. You know, he doesn't remember anything. And you know, and as I was reading through the chapters, I just found kind of like some disconnects in here. We also get to know like this other character, which is I think they call her Mama Esther. She's kind of like this house ghost, like this kind of like library that, you know, that they use or whatever. And it's kind of like this tension between Esther and the council. You know, they kind of don't like her or anything like that, but Carlos will use her, you know, for different things or whatever. So, you know, like I said, this first half of the book, we getting to know like Mama Esther and Baba Eddie and Kia and the other people that Carlos worked with. But I just felt like, we really didn't get to really know Carlos the way we need to know Carlos. And like I said, I don't know if that's done on purpose, because I haven't, this, like I said, this is the first book in the series. So I don't know in the other books if we're going to get a little bit more, as to why, Carlos was killed. What about his past life? And why did Sarko bring him back? So, I don't know if those subjects are going to be approached in the other series, but I kind of feel like I said earlier, 55 chapters, I think we should have got a little bit more information about Carlos. The way that, more than what we did. And, it's given a little bit of information of why we think Sarko may have brought Carlos back, but the way Sarko was talking to Carlos in the book, it seemed like Carlos is more powerful than what he seems to think, or what everybody knows of him. So was there more to what Sarko was, is there more to Carlos? Is there more to what Sarko was kind of trying to do in this first book? There's a lot of unanswered questions at the end of Half Restoration Blues. And I just kind of felt a disconnect between the plot and the characters. There's a little bit romance, because of this relationship between Carlos and Sasha, but to me this book is more kind of like an urban paranormal kind of a story. And then, like I said, I really didn't feel a connection between Carlos and Sasha. They, like I said, you kind of got like maybe these two knew each other in their past lives, but really no information is given. There should be, and if they did know each other in their past lives, even in death, there should be more of a kind of connection. And I think the author was trying to give us that, with as the relationship kind of went on between Carlos and Sasha, but still there was kind of like this disconnect. You understand what I'm saying? Like I kind of feel like I just didn't feel it. You know what I mean? So for the most part, I enjoyed the book, but and then there's kind of like some kind of like there was some jumps from like here and there. Like there's these little characters in the books called nymphs or imps or whatever you want to call them. They're kind of like these little things that Sarko was using, and like in the beginning of the book, it's explained that these things can be killed. Okay, fine. But then when I get to another section of the book, once it's explained that these little things can't be killed, okay, so they try to come up with another way to rid themselves of these, these little imps or whatever you want to call them. And but when I get to another section of the book, now it's kind of like said that that this council didn't want them killed at all. It was just try to figure out a way to get rid of them without killing them. And I kind of was like, well, that's not kind of like what was said, like, in the beginning of the story. So, I don't know. Again, if you hear yelling in the background I was watching Netflix, there's this drama on there, this Korean drama on there that I was in the middle of watching, but I figured let me get this done. But so that's the yelling you hear in the background, if you hear it. But for the most part, like I said, I did enjoy it. I thought the book got better towards the end. It's, like I said, I think like after chapter 20, after chapter 30, the book did kind of like pick up a little bit more. So for the most part, I think I'm going to give this book, I'm going to give it 3 stars on Goodreads. I I was really excited to go inside of this book because, I've heard so much about Mr. Holder and his writing, and there's nothing against his writing because you could tell this man is a teacher. Whoever kids here teaching, child, you could tell he's a teacher. But his writing, the writing is excellent. He has a great way of telling the story. He's very good with his, with words, throughout the book and stuff like that. But I just didn't, I don't know. I just couldn't get like 100%. Like, I wish I was more excited that's a better way of saying that. I just wish I was more excited by the time I finished this book. And I wasn't. I was kind of like glad it was over, and then I was kind of like disappointed as well because like by the end of this book, we still didn't get any much information about Carlos and, his past and, why he's here and why he was brought back, and that was kind of like disappointing. And again, I don't know if that was done on purpose by Arthur. Maybe we'll get more information, in the other books, but I checked the second book in the novel because I think this is a trilogy and all 3 books are out now, and I believe the second book is going to pretty much be more Kia's book. So, and then the third book, I think we're going to get more of Carlos and Sasha and stuff like that. So, and I'm quite sure Carlos is going to be in the second book as well. So I don't know, maybe we'll get a completion of why, all of this is the way it is. I don't know, but I don't know. I kind of left this first book feeling a little bit unsatisfied. So yeah, so that's pretty much my recap of Half Restoration Blues. 3 stars on Goodreads. I just wish the author had given us a little bit more. Like I said, 55 chapters, and really not to get to the meat of the bones and to really like wait in the book. It's kind of like, man, I'm surprised I finish it because most times with me, if I'm not grabbed within those first, couple of chapters, I'm kind of like putting the book down and I'm not picking it back up. So, but this world he has come up with and built is very well done. But the characters aren't fully fleshed. That's even a better way to say it. The characters aren't fully fleshed out throughout this book, especially Carlos' character. But it's a very, it's Brooklyn, and it's like Carlos is Puerto Rican, Sasha is Black. You get a very diverse world in Bone Street Rumba novel. He's in Brooklyn, New York, and you get the feel of Brooklyn, New York in this book. From the bodegas to the guys on the corners selling their food and selling their trinkets and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that part of the book. He gives you a really authentic feel of Brooklyn. Let me tell you something. This man has no problem calling out gentrification in this book. He was sticking it to the gentrifiers in Bone Street in Half Restoration Blues. Child, he was saying some things I was like, now okay, all right, let's tell it. Let's tell it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's true, and what can you do? But so I enjoy his telling of Brooklyn. You like I said, you get the bodegas and just like the mom and pop stores and the gentrification that's going on. You get all of that in Mr. Holder's world, but you just don't get the whitewashed version of Brooklyn. You get this man's version, the diversity of Brooklyn, everyone that lives there, and I can appreciate that about this book. So I just wish the characters were more fully fleshed. I just wish there was more of a connection with the story. And there's 55 chapters, so there is a lot going on in the story. So yeah, it's just like I said, my main issue is I just felt like the plot was like a little bit all over the place. It took a long time for this plot to come together, and it still wasn't fully, I still wasn't fully satisfied by the time I left the book. So I will get books 2 and 3, and I hope it picks up in those books. And I hope we get a little bit more about Carlos, because he's a very interesting character, and so is Sasha, and so are the other characters, in this series. So, I just hope we get to learn a little bit more. So, other than that, guys, that's it for me. So, until the next one, later days, bye.